Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. And I'm going to start with a very, very interesting story that happened to me when I was 20-something. And I was, which was my first connection to Glastonbury without being here exactly. And I was meditating at the time, and since about 18 years old, and I had a very, very early on states of consciousness and in meditation, high state of consciousness and some kind of vision. So what I wanted to say through that is that I was already used to have visual information coming in my mind, and this will explain how I was behaving. So I was staying at the time at a kind of, you know, the hippie kind of communities we had in the 70s, and in Montségur for about 2 months. And my friend Edouard was somebody who had this open community where all kinds of people would come from everywhere in the world. And one day he decided that he wanted to take us to the mountains around the site of the castle. You know that the castle is on the top of a very high hill, a small mountain. And it is overlooking the landscape on 360 degrees, okay? And it's really a tiny top of the mountain, and so you have this castle taking practically the whole top of the mountain, and then you can turn around. But sometimes, you know, next to the wall, the mountain is very, very steep, and you hardly have the room to stay. I know because one day I thought it was very near, and I said, why don't people climb by this way to the castle? And I tried, and then it was like I had to pray for my life, and I prayed with a specific type of plant that has extremely deep roots. And only this plant was there with the rocks, and I prayed to this plant, and I said, okay, you saved my life, and I know that I keep touching you, I will get to this wall, because there was absolutely no way I could go back. There was a river down there. And so I made an ally out of this plant, and ça s'appelle, it's called gui in French, and I'm sorry, I don't know. This is one of the strongest and deepest roots in very dry, rocky landscape. Yes. But it's not the gui that comes from the tree. It's not the one that is that the Druidic people were taking from the trees, like the oak trees. It's something coming from the ground, okay? And so I managed to keep all the time, you know, with touching this plant, the root. But sometimes I could not hold it, I knew. But sometimes I had to touch it with one toe like that, and try to extend, and finally I reached the wall, and then I had to climb a steep wall, like something like 5 or 6 meters, practically and I could not move through left or right along the wall. There was no room, and I finally managed to climb the wall, and then once I was with one leg, one side of the wall, and the other leg, the other side, I knew I was saved. And then I said, thank you, thank you, thank you, to the plant, of course. And then it remained my ally. So this is one possibility also, that you can connect with nature. And I have been a great traveler from 20 to 30 years old. went hitchhiking. From Montségur, I went hitchhiking barefoot without any money. I crossed the whole of Africa. I went back to India, stayed again a year and a half, barefoot, no money, staying with the ascetic, learning with them. So this is just to tell you that, to introduce you to what I want to try to convey to you is what kind of state, what kind of experience in consciousness you can have in these kind of sacred sites, and what kind of information you can get from meditation. So I keep going with my story. We went through the castle, but so Edouard takes a few of us. We were like 4 or 5 people all together, 5, 6. And it takes us to the mountains now, not the castle, but around. You have a lot of peaks around. Of course, it's a Pyrenees mountain, so it's full of tiny peaks. And that's where you had the Templars, were specifically in the Pyrenees mountains because they had all kinds of very, very telluric, extraordinary telluric peaks everywhere. So that's also where you have Rennes-le-Château and not too far from Montségur. And so he took us to the mountain, and at one point there was a huge wall, natural wall, which was one piece, like a huge, absolutely huge megalith in the real sense of the term. And there was an opening as if there was a door. And then again, a huge wall. But it was not like a quarry, what we saw with the quarries, like it had not been really quarried. Or, but it was smooth. At the same time, it was really looking like a wall. And one piece of stone. A monolith, you know. And with this opening like a door, and at the same level, both sides, practically, and it was following the hill up, okay? So we felt such a strong thing. At the moment we arrived in front of this absolutely natural place, a sacred site place, that was not on any map, that had no name, that was not known. The group, all of us, we stopped talking. And we started behaving in the same manner. That was very, very strange. First of all, we saw this wall, we saw this opening, and everybody just went there. Of course, we passed the opening. But me, in passing the opening, I knew I was getting into very, very strong sacred site. And immediately I touch the opening, and I have a way, you know, to talk with the stones, to feel that there is we will talk about that just in a minute. I call it semantic energy, or SIG energy, the energy of consciousness. There is an energy of consciousness with an information that is remaining imprinted in the stones, whether they are monuments, you know, of whatever time, or whether they are just natural stones. And this is why in all the culture in the world, practically all the ancient cultures at least, you have, the stones are sacred. But why are they sacred? They are sacred because they have the print of history, the print of consciousness, of whatever happened around